Every time models get faster while keeping the same level of intelligence and cheaper, it unlocks a whole set of new use cases for AI that didn't work before. An idea I have is to let people generate a Minecraft world where you just put in a prompt and the AI will create the world. You can see on the current Claude Sonnet 4.5 pricing, that's really expensive. It's $15 per million output tokens and $3 per million input. And even cached, it's still at 30 cents per million. However, recently DeepSeek has released a new model that is supposedly equivalent in performance to almost Claude Sonnet, but the pricing is vastly cheaper. The pricing for output tokens is actually about 40 times cheaper, and the pricing for input tokens is 10 times cheaper. This means with cached input tokens, you could potentially have it read like 30 million tokens for $1. This makes general consumer use cases possible that previously were too expensive. For example, I'm very interested in letting people generate Minecraft worlds from prompts. I asked DeepSeek to generate a nice jungle biome, and this is the output I got. It cost very little for me to generate this, like less than a cent. That means I can now productionize this into a consumer app and potentially let people use it for free on the internet. I think this will be true for lots of other use cases as well. So I want DeepSeek to generate an environment. I've set up a little application where you can write some code and then it will create the environment using a voxel engine. In the past, when I gave this to Claude Sonnet, it worked well, but it was really expensive. It was costing me like $1 per environment. But you can see here with the completely unoptimized DeepSeek, it's only costing me 17 cents. That's after processing a million tokens. It wrote this whole script in a matter of a few minutes. I would say the tokens per second coming out of it is significantly slower compared to Sonnet, but generally speed is less of a concern than cost. Now let me give it a challenge. One of the classic benchmarks for models is asking it to generate an SVG of a pelican, which we can test now. You can see the output is quite slow compared to Sonnet or almost any other model, but I have a feeling this has more to do with DeepSeek's data centers than the model itself. So now it's doing a bit of thinking about it. There you go, that's a pretty reasonable. I just remembered it's not a pelican, but a pelican riding a bicycle. I do think it's incredibly slow at editing, but it is pretty smart. I honestly feel like often it is acting more intelligently than Claude Sonnet in many ways, more logical. I feel like this has a lot to do with the fact that DeepSeek is so heavily dependent on RL. The models that DeepSeek deploys are also vastly smaller than the models that Sonnet uses, so there's probably a lot more dependency on following human thinking structures and a lot less dependency on massive models with huge weights. Before it makes these improvements, I want to have another look at it. It's looking pretty good so far. But I'll hear it out and let it continue. And you see we're below less than a cent of cost. That is vastly, vastly cheaper than prior models. The only problem with DeepSeek is that it is a Chinese company, which means that there is a chance that all of your data will go to the Chinese government. But the lab itself is incredible. They're completely steamrolling the American labs. It's probably going to force the American labs to all drop their prices and compete much more heavily. Updated Pelican to see what it looks like. Not bad. I think it improved it a lot. And then it's trying to validate that it's generated a correct SVG. It's kind of going above and beyond. It doesn't really want to stop. Sonnet kind of just stops all the time when it thinks it's done. DeepSeek just keeps going, but nonetheless, like performance is incredible and it's incredibly cheap.